Hello, everybody, and welcome along to Fire Them Cannons' first ever episode of Under Pressure, which is originally, of course, from Hot Sport, but it's the first episode here on Fire Them Cannons. We got so much to cover for you. Big game this week in the Premier League. Man City go to Anfield to play Liverpool. Potentially, Arsenal, if they beat Sunderland the day before, would go 9 points clear prior to that game, potentially. Will Arsenal be able to take advantage of that? But it would be a massive pressure moment in the league. This could be the week where we find out the destination of the Premier League title. Make sure you're liking, make sure you're subscribing. This is Under Pressure on Fire Them Cannons. Okay, welcome along in everybody to Fire Them Cannons. Make sure you are giving this video a like. Make sure you are subscribing. Make sure you are commenting. Every single thing helps push the algorithm up of this video so it gets it out to more viewers so we can help build this channel. I want to start out the show by congratulating Manchester City, because I'm buttering them up because I'm going to tear them down in this episode. But they did have a very convincing second leg performance against Newcastle. They were 3-0 up within the first 32 minutes of the game. And they really just this thing was done so early on. So they will be playing Arsenal in the Carabao Cup final. Congratulations to them. But they are still under pressure. Let's go. All right, guys, it's time for the Under Pressure segment. So for those of you guys who do not understand how this works, just because I'm going to do this for all my videos, for my Fire Them Cannons people who are seeing these videos for the very first time, Under Pressure is the idea of Under Pressure is we're going to talk about the manager, the player, and the club that we feel is the most under pressure heading into the weekend or at this moment in time. The list is made for encouragement, to help people find their way, to help allow people to kind of step up to the moment, give them that encouragement to step up to the moment, should I say. And it also gives me a good chance to, have a little bit of rant banter, a little bit of ripping into some players. And we also get to kind of play a few clips around, talking about these specific topics from everybody in the media. So yeah, we got lots to cover, of course. Let's begin with the manager who is the most under pressure for me, and that is Eddie Howe. There were a lot of candidates, to be honest. There were your regulars. There was Thomas Frank, who, of course, Tottenham fans are talking about all the time. There's Slot, who's being spoken about all the time. Pep, even, in recent times, could definitely be someone who's under pressure. But for me, it's hard to make him really under pressure, considering all that he's achieved at the football club. And also the fact that I kind of feel that maybe he might be leaving at the end of the season anyway. So there's really no pressure for him at all. I believe no matter what happens this season, him should be very clear about that. But yeah, the winner of the manager of most under pressure of the week is Eddie Howe. And it's been a really bad week for Newcastle. It's been a really underwhelming year for Newcastle. This isn't the first time he's been on this list. If you recall, for anybody who's been watching my videos, about a month or 2 months ago, the True Geordie came out, spoke his displeasure, basically saying that, he thinks that, Eddie Howe should be gone from the football club, that it's time for Newcastle to part ways. And yeah, you kind of look at them, in the table right now this season. If I just pull up the statistics. But we're just talking about it in the Premier League. In the Champions League, they failed to beat PSG, although I don't really think that was Eddie's fault. I think that was a very unlucky day in terms of the refereeing decisions that went against them in that game. But yeah, so currently Newcastle in the league sits on 11th in the league on 33 points. So outside of the Champions League places, it's 7 points behind the Champions League places, which it's not an impossible task. For context, Aston Villa, who sit in third in the Premier League, are 7 points behind Arsenal at the top of the league. So many people believe that's still them alive in the title race, not me. But I think the golfing class, between Newcastle and Chelsea is not that different. I think Chelsea will drop points plenty of times this year. So I still think that it's salvageable, their league position. Now, I have to start out by saying this. Eddie Howe did win them this Carabao Cup last year, which is, by the way, I think Newcastle's first trophy in many, 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 many years. And Eddie Howe delivered that for them. Now, 1 year later, they lost 2-0 on the first leg against City. And then this one, they were already, I think the tie was dead 6 minutes in. The minute City went 3-0 up in the tie, you knew that, Newcastle had all to do. They would need to score 3 goals without reply, which, by the way, they only scored 1 in this game. It wasn't long until it was 2, and then by 32 minutes it was 3. Marmoush had double and Reinders had 1, but that's regardless of the point when it comes to Eddie Howe. Earlier in the week, they started off very, very well against Liverpool. They went 1-0 up, and then Liverpool absolutely smashed them off the park in the second half. It ended 4-1 to Liverpool by the end of that game. Again, you could say that the fixtures have been very tough if you look at it. PSG, Liverpool, Manchester City, within a week, within 7 days, basically. So, tough. But I think, from what I can tell right now, though, given the fact that it's just coming to the point where I just feel like they're not really probably going to get to where they expected to be. They're definitely underachieving this year, Newcastle. And there were a lot of, on TalkSport, there were callers that were going in. Very interesting. I want to listen to one of them. His name is Don. He used a very key word, which I like to use in this, that I like to use in this show, obviously. So I think you guys can guess what that is. But this is what Dom had to say. He called into the sports bar on TalkSport. And this is kind of what he wanted to say. By the way, he was one of many Newcastle fans to call in on this show to express their displeasure at Eddie Howe. And let's have a listen to what he had to say.
Let's go to Dom. He's a Newcastle fan. Dom.
All right, Dom.
Oh, good evening, boys.
All right, matey.
Dom, look, disappointing tonight in the end. You had some chances, but it was over, really, after 8 minutes.
So I've got a few things. So first of all, Jamie, I think you're talking absolute rubbish. Eddie Howe is massively under pressure.
Well, really?
He's massively at risk.
Okay. I mean,
That
look,
was
I'm
the key
intrigued
word.
to know.
Right, so there is a way that Eddie Howe can still be regarded as a club legend, but still be at the risk of getting the sack, and still be at risk of losing his job. What he did for this club when he first came in and what he's done up until probably the start of this season has been nothing short of extraordinary.
Okay.
Yeah, we've never seen really a team rise like that, apart from probably Man City, but even then they had a few dodgy years when they first took over. Eddie Howe has achieved things that no other Newcastle manager has achieved for over 70 years, which in my book is a legend. He'll be one of the best Newcastle managers I've ever seen, if not the best, in my lifetime.
Mm.
So from there, yes, he's a legend.
Yep.
However, the here and now, which is making the difference ultimately on our ability to go forward as a club, whether that be commercially, whether that be with the players that we sign, whether that be with the competitions that we're in, and our ability to challenge these competitions, we are stagnating. We have been stale this season. We've been stale pretty much since the back end of last season from when we won the Cup. We won 2 games in the last 9 last season, and we've won 2 away from home in the Premier League this season. Tonight was a prime opportunity for him to go to, no, I'm not crying, but there is points that can have perfect validity.
Yep.
Tonight was a prime opportunity, 2-0 down to Manchester City, for him to go there, set the team up with the idea of going for it and actually having a go. You go with the back.
Andy and O'Hara are such. I gotta say, I'm sorry. They're like, this guy's pouring his heart out, and they're playing baby noises and whatever. It's just their entertainment. I guess it's their shtick.
Back five, you're setting up to frustrate them. 7 minutes in, we're 1-0 down. The game, as Cundy said, the tie's done. It's finished. You know, and all 3 goals today were easily preventable. They were sloppy and they were poor. We missed 4. We had 4 big chances through the game. We missed all 4 of them. Visa had one at the start of the second half that looked like he'd never struck a ball at the goal before. Alanga had one after he scored, which I'd still baffle me hearing it. Scored and had his one early on. We had four massive chances. You take those, you win the tie. I don't care about, or you win the match at least. I don't care about winning the tie. I never expect us to go there tonight and go and get through to the final. However, to be 3-0 down in 33 minutes is a joke.
Oh, listen, look, tonight's a tough... Dom, look, tonight is a tough night. I get it. It was a poor performance. You look like you're a bit flat. You look like you've run out a bit of esteem. But to say that he's under pressure, I'm amazed that...
Keyword again.
You're saying it because you sound like you know what you're talking about, Dom. And I'd be amazed if you think about Eddie Howe getting the sack. You won the Carabao Cup last season. It's the first time you've won a trophy in at like what, 30 years or something ridiculous, right?
70 years.
70 years.
And
right, so
I cannot thank that bloke enough for giving me that day at Wembley.
Okay, but so where's the credit? So where's the credit in the bank then? You're in the Champions League. You've qualified for the playoffs, right? You're 7 points off 4th, right? You sold your best player that you've seen since probably Alan Shearer in Isak last season, right?
And reinvested the money.
Yeah, but you've been reinvested it in money on players who are nowhere near as good as Isak. You know,
so fundamentally something is wrong. How wants control of transfers? If that's How's control of transfers, he should be nowhere near them. If he was at any other club, any other big club, if he was at Man City, Man United, Tottenham, Arsenal, Chelsea, he'd have been sacked pre-Christmas.
No, he wouldn't, mate.
And there's no denying that.
I don't believe that.
He would. Chelsea have proven that before, Jamie.
Yeah, Chelsea, you can't compare Chelsea to Newcastle. You can't, Don. I'm sorry.
You're not, Jamie. Sat Mourinho the week before a cup final. You probably would have stood a chance of winning with Mourinho in charge. And but Ryan Mason never made a game in his life before him.
Yeah, but that was a terrible decision.
Just before we Dom, I understand what you're saying. You're not the only Newcastle fan I've spoken to about this. There is still a lot of football to be played. Okay, you're out the Carabao Cup, disappointed. You couldn't hold on to it. You won last year. Where for the rest of this season now, Eddie Howe has got to prove that he is more than capable. Because there is only 7 points between it. There's a lot of traffic in between it. But what he's got to prove now is that he's capable of making a challenge in and around those European places. To have no European football.
That's my worry.
Yeah, if there's no European football,
the traffic in between is my concern, because we've had league seasons before where you could be 6 and be 7 points off of 6. This time we're 11th. But there's a lot of teams that we're relying on dropping points. A lot of teams that have looked really good this season as well, and we haven't.
Okay, but there's a manager that deserved the sack for an average season.
He's the one who sets the team up, isn't he, at the end of the day?
For an average season. Like, this is not a terrible season for Newcastle. This is an average season so far.
But we saw the harm that being out of the Champions League did for us. Because ultimately, it probably pushed things back towards wanting to go.
I hear you, but the Champions League, we are talking about 4 or 5 teams who are fighting it out to get in the Champions League.
Anyway, I've heard enough of this argument. It went on too long. I just kind of want to elaborate and hear a little bit more about what Dom was saying, his thought process behind sacking the manager. I do tend to agree with Jamie O'Hara. Whoa. Shock horror. I think it would be a bad decision just to sack Eddie Howe right now. I get they're going through a bad patch. As you said, it was a bad night. It's a tough night. It's a tough moment. I think Newcastle a little bit need to understand where they are on the pecking order a little bit. Yeah, it was a tough week. They played PSG. They played Liverpool. They played City. 3 of the best teams in Europe, let alone, 2 of the best teams in England. The last 2 champions of England. Yeah, he delivered them their first cup in 70 years, as the guy said? yeah, you got to kind of see how things go in the rest of the competitions. There are plenty of football to be played. They're still in all three of the other competitions. I mean, they're in the FA Cup still. They are still in. They are still in the Champions League. They have Carabao coming up. They'll probably beat them and they'll go into the last 16. So there's so much season to go. Will they win a trophy? Most likely not. But will there be uptick in performances? Are they going to improve? I think that's more what you kind of want to see from Newcastle this year, because at the end of the day, their standards are not Big Six standards. I have arguments with some other Newcastle fans that I know about this all the time. And I think for me, there's only worse than Eddie Howe out there for Newcastle to pick up in terms of managers who are willing to go and play for Newcastle. I mean, manage Newcastle is just fact. Anyway, let's move on to the next thing, and I will kick this off with a video from the start. And yeah, this is a very interesting conversation that is flown under the radar, but I want to bring it up because that's what I do. I don't let anybody get away with anything. So here we go with big video here discussing a very important topic for me, and that is the player who is under pressure. And I think you got an idea given the logo in the background here of this video. Let's go.
Is there an issue with goal scoring for Manchester City, particularly with the form of Haaland?
I think on a day like today, he didn't have an excuse, because Spurs tried to commit men forward, play really high. He had the opportunity. Maybe the ball came to him a little bit too late, but in terms of his all-round game, I wanted a little bit more from him.
But and not just based on today's evidence, but the fact that it's only 2 goals in the last 11 for him, and he does tend to have a little winter dip.
Yeah, in the other games, I would say it was more down to him not getting the ball in great areas, and then when he touches the ball, he had to score. Not many touches. I thought today was a little bit different, because Spurs were really high, being really aggressive. There's times where Spurs were leaving 2 at the back. You come on and get the ball, little touches around the corner, just not cute enough. When it goes up, it breaks down a little bit too much. And we can all look at his goal record. Fantastic. We talk about him, utilize about him all the time. He's amazing. But just these little differences. When you 2-0 up, can he keep the ball? Can he bring people into play? Can he score that goal to finish off the game? And it's like,
just for context, that is former Manchester City player Micah Richards. And yes, Erling Haaland is the player featured this week on Under Pressure. Now, I found it very interesting because the tables have turned a little bit for me when it comes to Erling Haaland. Erling Haaland has been used as the measuring stick, and rightfully so, as the striker that everybody kind of just wants to have in their team. We buy strikers, we compare them to Haaland. He has come in, he's been one of the best strikers I think the Premier League has ever seen, really, within his first, 3 full seasons. I think he's now into his 4th season with Manchester City. He's just been incredible. He was the youngest player to get to 100 goals. He's broken Alan Shearer's single season record. Incredible stuff that Erling Haaland has done. And he started this season, it seemed like as if, and it still could be, his best statistical season. He could even break his own record this year. That's what it was looking like for a very long time. And I still think there's still a possibility, given what this man has. If I wake him up today, which I don't know what I'm doing right now, if that's the case, I'm putting him on the Under Pressure list this week. But I have to do it because I have to respect the competition. I have to respect the show. I have to respect, give everybody fair and equal opportunity when it comes to the same issues. It's an interesting stat. Since the start of 2026, by the way, I'm going to be shameless. By the way, this image comes from AFC, one of the AFC Arsenal Twitter accounts. Since the year 2026 began, so we're now on the 5th of February, since the 1st of January, Victor Gyökeres in all competitions has 4 goals. The much maligned Victor Gyökeres, and Erling Haaland has half of that on 2 in all competitions. One of them was in the league, which was from the penalty spot against Brighton. and the other one was, I believe, against Exeter City in the FA Cup. His goal scoring form, I believe, is very linked with the football club's form overall. And we'll get into the football club, not to play any spoilers, but I think you kind of could have guessed that from a mile away, given my my intro. So yeah, I mean, he came on even today in that Newcastle game, and I felt like he was so desperate to score. The one chance that he did get, I thought generally when he's in his most confidence, he buries it. This time he hits it wide. There is something about Haaland right now. I don't know whether they're not able to find him. They're not able to, but he's not imposing himself in the game. He's having, Gyökeres-like problems. But again, everyone's going to glaze over it because he doesn't play for Arsenal and he's Erling Haaland and he plays for Manchester City, the darlings of the media, and apparently the most popular team in England, because clearly everyone's just wanting to see them win all the time, from my perspective, which I think is weird that people think that way. But yeah, it should be noted that he is on a goal-scoring drought. So since the start of the year, what they played, Sunderland, no goals for them in that game. The next game was Chelsea, I believe Chelsea at home, no goals for him in that game. He did score in the Brighton 1-1 draw. That was the one. Then they go to play Exeter in the Cup. He scores, so that's back-to-back games, right? Those are his goals. Then they play City in the Cup, first leg, no goals. Oh, this is now we're up to 5 games. 6th game of the season. They played, I believe, Manchester United in the league. They lost that one, I believe, 3-0. No goals there, so that's 2 and 6. The next one is Bodo Glimt. That's 2 and 7. The next one is in the league in their victory against Wolves. That's 2 and 8, but no goals even against Wolves. The next one was their Champions League game. Who did they play in the last game of the Champions League? That was 9. Then no goals against Tottenham at White Hart Lane. That's 10. And no goals against Newcastle. 2 goals in 11 matches for Erling Haaland. That, my friend, is struggling. And I gotta say right now, at this point in the season, by the way, he was benched, although to be honest, I think that's overdone for this game because they already had a 2-0 lead. And again, a second time within 2 days that the media has thrown out a narrative that is completely false within the context of a 2-legged tie. The one before that was Neville criticizing Arsenal for not chasing the game when they had a 3-2 lead in the aggregate. And this one, Haaland has been benched. Rubbish. Marmoush, by the way, comes in, scores 2 goals. He's been on good form since he's come back from AFCON. Unlike Haaland, by the way, so that means Marmoush has kind of earned that place. But the other thing is, they're two-goal lead up, and if Newcastle made it interesting and they needed one back, they more than likely would have summoned Erling Haaland, which they did anyway, to come on off the subs bench. But it's a big critical moment for Manchester City, and this will lead up to my final point in this show, that they need Erling Haaland right now because it's make or break time for Liverpool, for Manchester City Football Club, and that is what I'll say. That's the team that is under pressure the most this week. Because, and by the way, if anybody's seen the tiers yesterday and have seen my short that I posted on YouTube, this is the biggest weekend for me in the Premier League. And it could be. If Manchester City win, it won't be. So for me, Manchester City, this is a must-win game away at the Anfield. regardless of Arsenal's result. I actually was going to say with Arsenal's result, I do expect Arsenal to win, go up 9 points clear in the league, the day before, and put the pressure on City to have to kind of bring it back to 6. If they bring it back to 6, I think, yes, it wouldn't be different from what it is now mathematically, but the Anfield game being in the rearview mirror, I think, is a big deal for City. And the fact that they were able to go to Anfield, by the way, they've beaten Liverpool already 3-0 earlier this year. If they went to Anfield and turned Liverpool over, I think that's a massive confidence booster. That's a signal that Manchester City are really back. And the first time when they played Liverpool, that was kind of the signal. That's when people started to realize, okay, Liverpool's done in this title race. By the way, I was correct in saying that at that time. And that's when people really started to think, because Arsenal dropped points that weekend, that, oh no, City, City are the favorites now, or something along the lines, or Arsenal under threat by City. That's when that sort of period kind of started. They need that now more than ever, because if they fail, I think they fail in either way, especially if they lose. 9 points clear atop the Premier League, I think you will say that this was the weekend that Arsenal won the league. Whether it's not mathematically done, of course, to be pedantic, but I think we would know that it basically was wrapped up on this weekend, which was when Liverpool play against Man City. The date will be the 8th of February, 2026. So it's now or never for Manchester City. By the way, congratulations again on them winning the cup, but it isn't winning the semi-final to advance to Wembley. But it doesn't take away the scenario that they're facing on the weekend in terms of the league. This Under Pressure show is ultimately going to be about the league. And right now, I believe they don't win this weekend, coupled with an Arsenal win, and the title race is over. That's how I feel. So City are under big amounts of pressure. I'm really intrigued / hoping that what I'm saying comes true, that Arsenal win and City lose, obviously. But I'm intrigued to see how this shapes up, because I do think that this is a pivotal weekend. It will be 13 games to go afterwards, so a 9-point gap would be significant. So we'll see. And there are a bunch of other games, by the way. Man United, playing against Spurs at home. You would think that that's a big game for them, but we're going to cover that on a different time. But yeah, I think it's a pivotal weekend. We'll talk about that more, by the way. Just to plug tomorrow's show, which is Upset Alert. We're going to preview sort of the games this weekend. Anyway, let me know what you guys think in the comment section below, about my Under Pressure list for this week. Is Eddie Howe the most under pressure manager? Do you agree with that caller, Dom, that it's, thanks for the memories, Eddie, but it's time to go? Or do you agree with Jamie O'Hara that, we have to kind of wait, and Cundy a little bit said it as well. There's a lot of football to be played. Let's go see how things go for the rest of the season with Eddie Howe, because I just think that they need to persist with him as much as they can. But wonder what you guys all think, and tell me about that in the comments section below. Erling Haaland, 2 goals in 11 games since the beginning of 2026. Are we talking about it enough? Is he letting his team down? Has his goals dried up at the most crucial part of the season? Is Erling Haaland to blame for my final point of Man City being in the position where do you believe that they need to win this weekend or the title is a wrap? Of course, Arsenal would have to win as well. But I that last one, I really want to know your thoughts. Maybe if I could try to add a poll into this. I don't know how to add a poll into these videos, but I can try to know what you guys think about that. Do Manchester City have to win this weekend against Liverpool in order to stay in the title race? That is going to be my big question, guys. Let me know in the comment section below. We have Upset Alert coming out for tomorrow, but until then, guys, Anton out.